You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. All right, that's good. Cool. What's up? Go ahead.
Do you mind if I do something before we start? Do you mind if I pray before we start?
Go for it.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
When we had the podcast, we did this every time before we recorded. And there's this story out of Exodus. And I always, I guess I should say it resonated for me before I recorded, because I can have a tendency to perform. And when you're recording, etc., it's very easy to fall into performing. But I also feel very inadequate often to whatever is in front of me, especially in performing and or being on stage or recording. And there's this moment in Exodus where Moses has encountered the burning bush, knows exactly what, like, talk about clarity of what God's calling you to do on something. I mean, you literally have a bush and you're talking to God. And the conversation he had with God after was one that always resonates, because it's one where he expresses insecurity. He is having a conversation, which I love, and it's what we're going to do. And I think that's even, if we get to prayer in the most fundamental of levels of what prayer is. And I just always love what God says to him, which is essentially, I'm in charge of results. You're in charge of obedience. You go. I'll give you what to say, and I'll handle what people hear. You just go. So if you don't mind, I'll read that and pray for us.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. But Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and tongue." And then the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth, and I will teach you what you shall speak." God, thank you for today. Thank you for technology. Thank you for globalization. Thank you for the story you've written in Mike's life that collides he and I today, where I know I get to share and we're going to have a conversation. But I am just thankful for the intentionality that when we cannot see what the steps are, you've been guiding them. And so I just pray for the space in front of us, that Mike and I would be inspired, encouraged. We bring our authentic selves and enjoy a conversation that at the end of the day, and sharing our own stories, somehow glorifies you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for letting me do that.
Of course.
I appreciate it very much.
Not at all. That's great. Let's roll right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to This is Oklahoma. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest, Mr. Clay Steves. Has religion been a huge part of your life growing up then?
Definitely. Was raised in a home and have a background of raised in a home that follows Jesus. Mm-hmm. I would also say that my journey is very much one of knew it in my head. So for those on video seeing, pointing at my head, and that delta from my head to my heart of 12 or 18 inches was really a big part of my story. Yeah, definitely. But so yes, was raised in a home that was very present for me always. Yeah.
And around kind of just life and everything, was it a regular kind of Wednesday, Sunday church, or was it just kind of whenever? What was the, because everybody's different, right?
Yeah, First Baptist Church, Edmond, man. I mean, I grew up in Edmond, Oklahoma. That's home. Some of my earliest memories are in the church. It was a part of our life and structure and architecture. No question about it. Yes. Yeah.
So in your story, you were adopted.
I am.
Okay. What's like the earliest memory of you being adopted? Was it really super early, or was it later on?
So I was adopted at 13 days old.
Okay.
The way I've talked about it or shared about it in the past, I can't remember being told I'm adopted.
Yeah.
So there's no seminal moment where I was like, oh, I'm adopted.
Right.
Which is a wonderful credit to my parents. Like, I give them great credit because it was just always present. That was a part of my story. Yeah. And my mom used to say, it'll make me emotional. My mom has passed. My adoptive mom passed about 3 years ago. Okay. And so when I share it, it's has layers of emotions. Mm-hmm. But she used to say, you came from my heart, not from my tummy. And it's like, it's so hokey, but it really was just this beautiful, like, yeah, but you're my son, mm-hmm. period. Yeah. And that was, so it was always a part of my story. And I never had Yeah.
Did you meet your biological parents?
It's a great question, Mike. I have met one of the two of them.
Okay.
Okay, but I can't tell that without telling how I met them.
Yeah, of course.
Is that fair?
Yeah, we got loads of time. Come on down.
Okay, good. Okay, so I think I can't speak for all adoptees. I'll speak for myself. It's a paradox where I would say I wore it like a badge of honor. In other words, like first day of elementary school, they'd ask, say something unique about yourself. It was always the thing I said. And so that's fun. And especially because I look like my parents. So I'm white, they're white. Like you wouldn't know it by just looking at a picture. So that was my unique thing. And at the same time, you feel like a black sheep in your own family. So it's this weird paradox that given any circumstance, you could swing from one end to the other. So I always talked about maybe in my rebellious phase as I began to become, a teenage boy, as we all begin to push on boundaries, push edges, maybe without the tact that we should, as I have two teenage boys, by the way, so I say that with experience now on this side of it as a parent. But I can remember vividly pushing on my mom, telling her, I'm going to go, like the moment I'm 18, I'm going to go find out. Like the moment I can go do it, because I'm from the closed adoption generation, born in 82. And it really hurt her, I can remember, just because it was she received it as me saying, like, she's not enough, I need to go find my other mom. Of course, that's not what I was saying. Of course, that's our own journeys. And but so I can remember pushing hard enough one day to where she cried. And so I really shut it down. Like, you know what? That was, okay, look at that reaction. Like that was something deep. So didn't do anything with it and really buried it. Okay? Moved forward in life. I graduated from Edmond High School, went to Baylor University, played soccer there. Also sowed my wild seeds at Baylor. Really began to, I was listless. I was wandering. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was studying history, but not because it's the only thing I enjoyed in school. And began to battle substance abuse in college. So, I mean, college campus, you can find Adderall, you can find Ritalin. I mean, it's just candy. I don't know how it is now. I can just talk about back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so that was, for someone who was not wanting to deal with life, that was an easy way to numb, avoid, ignore.
Why were you not wanting to deal with life at that point?
Great question that I don't know that I have a clear answer to, other than I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to grow up because I didn't know what the next thing was. I had followed the rules. I'd been raised in a religious home. I had done all the right things. I had been this, but yet at the same time, off of my beliefs, were all broken. And so I was much more clean on the outside and dirty on the inside. And so I probably was just like, well, F that. If I'm going to be dirty, let's just go.
Yeah.
Let's just go swing for the fences.
Was it friend group, do you think?
Oh,
Once you got away from high school.
Yeah, great. I mean, we're always, right? Aren't we always the five influences, right? That's probably true. The question I would ask is, how was I contributing to that? So, of course, it's a two-way street in all of those. Mm-hmm. I would anticipate I was probably more the thermostat than the thermometer there. I was probably seeking that out. Mm-hmm. More than like all of a sudden these people came in my life and then all of a sudden they were influencing me or pressuring me. Mm-hmm. It probably was just more genuine, didn't know what I wanted to do, was curious on it, didn't really love myself, which is always a fascinating question.
Right.
I mean, if we're going to stay in biblical veins of the like, love your neighbor as yourself, there's a great question of like, that means equal to loving yourself. And it's like, well, do I love myself? And how do I do that without being prideful? Because if I'm going to love you, I just don't know that I did. I just was and then once you start abusing meds, it becomes also just a physiological, chemical stir as well, as because we're talking about psychological, emotional things. Add in the chemical aspect. And so, failed out of school, 8 hours left. 3 classes, so like the very end. Like in context, looking back as a 42-year-old, right. Like that is the right response, is to be like, 8 hours? Like, bro, come on. But I think that should be revealing of the state, right? The state, not the state, my state. Yeah. Lied to many people about that. Lied to myself a lot, and to a gentleman's credit, so my very first job out of school, when I was 14, maybe 15, I was working at my dad's office. My dad is a retired orthopedic surgeon here in Oklahoma City, and I was working in his office, doing files one summer, et cetera, to make some money, a buddy and I. And my dad's orthopedic device rep came into the clinic to see him, was working with my dad, and I was probably being gregarious, shaking hands, kissing babies, being loud, just being me. And he said to my dad then, like, I'll give him a job when he's done with school. And to his great credit, many, many years later, when I was leaving school, and that's what I would say, because I was very insecure about saying I failed out of school. I would say I left school, or I finished school. Again, you can say things you know what I mean? Like, you don't give the story, but you also don't give the story. He gave me a job, and I called him and I was like, listen, I'm not going to graduate with my degree. And he was like, I wasn't hiring you for your history degree. I was hiring the kid there. So I got into medical sales. Okay. Entry level grunt, running sets, learning to be in the operating room. And
what year is this?
2005. Yeah. I did a victory lap before I failed out. Yeah. So it was, so my wife and I got married that year as well. So we had been together for 2+3 years at that point, on again, off again through college, and got married in 2005 and moved to Tulsa. And that was, I'd say in my story, that was a big wall season. And what I mean is I just ignored the previous season. Yeah. So that was just not a part of my story, and just left it as a void. And we might even parallel it with finding my biological family piece there. I'm not sure I've ever connected that and telling the story before. That's kind of fun. Yeah. And so went on to live the stereotypical, my perspective, Edmond life. Went on to make good money in medical sales. My wife and I ended up having 2 children. It's not that there's not challenges or complexities in life. Our firstborn was actually twins, and we lost one of the twins in the pregnancy. And so that was our first time as parents, and so navigating those kind of pieces. But so really, again, had it together. And I'm using quotes if you're not watching the video, like had life back together, right? From a derailed situation, put up the wall, got my junk together, and did the thing. Make money, pay your taxes, buy the house in Edmond, buy the next house, like all those things. Okay. So I'm sitting at church one night. Okay. I'm sitting at church, and we're at a program, and there was no church in school in that season of life. Because F it, I was just going to go off the rails. Come back, and I'm like, well, that didn't work real well for me. Yeah. So start going back. But again, I'm going to say I went back to church out of like, I don't know that I have an answer, but at least I had some stability and structure.
Same church that you went to growing up?
Different. Okay. Was going to the Life Church Edmond campus in that season of life. It was at a program called the Kazon program, which is a Hebrew word for vision or purpose. Okay. It's got multiple exercises in it that you do to try to find God's vision or purpose for your life. Okay. So I'm doing this specific exercise called the past experiences exercise. And they lay out different color Post-it notes. And you're supposed to, in just like a brain dump, right? Just like in the flow, don't overthink about it. Take 10 minutes and just start writing down events from your life. And then you begin to just write different ones. And different Post-it notes, the colors of them mean different things. Positive experiences, negative experiences, etc. Yeah. And you just flow. And so you just start writing events. And you throw it, and you're throwing it onto this timeline in this trifold booklet thing. And as I'm doing this exercise, and as this channel of my life is that night, negative experiences was magenta. I can still see it. Like we're looking at this cord being orange. Those Post-it notes were magenta, and I just had this just waterfall of magenta Post-it notes of where I lied, of where I'd hurt people, of deception, of the abuse, all these kind of pieces. And I say this so humbly, meaning like meekly, but also as authentically as I can. For one of the very few times in my life, I felt very clearly being told, go back to school. And I very clearly responded, hell no.
Not happening.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
How old are you at this point?
Oh, let's go. That's 2010, November of 2010.
Okay.
So, I mean, in 2012, I'd have been 30.
Yeah.
So I was 28. Okay. Luckily, wisdom and wise counsel in my life back to the 5 people around you. And I had my wife is my favorite human on earth.
She from here or Texas?
She had a season in Texas. She moved around about every 4 to 5 years. So Oklahoma's the place she's lived the longest now, that because this is our 20th year of marriage. Yeah. But she lived a long time in Texas, and we met at Baylor. That's where we met at school. Yeah. So again, counsel from her, and her, I can remember her response being, that sounds terrible, but if that really was God telling you to do something, then you have to do it. Okay. So, and at this season of life, again, I'm a rep. I'm covering surgery. So that's what I'm doing for a living, sell surgical devices, and I'm covering surgery. I'm in the operating room. So I'm literally like covering a total knee arthroplasty, and then in between reading Emily Dickinson. And I'm like, what correlation in life? Like, what am I doing? Staying up at night, writing papers after putting my 2 young sons to bed. Like, it's just like, we were making bluntly a couple $100,000 a year at that point. So had it together, all these kind of things. It was like we didn't have, like, what are we doing? Why am I doing this? Yeah. And so Fast forward to the end of that year, which would be 2011, and on December 17th, there's a beautiful moment down in Waco where I'm on the floor of the Farrell Center, the basketball at graduation with all these other 22-year-old knuckleheads that don't know. I'm just looking at all of them like I'm this old guy. I got kids up in the crowd, but my family was there, my parents are there, my wife is there, my sons are there, and I would say it was just a healing because my family is one again of. They all have higher degrees. So this stuff like matters, performance mattered. Like we were a high performing family. It was competitive, all these kind of pieces. And
completion as well, right?
It was completion. You're correct. So here's the twist that we did not know even in that moment. Because days later, it was on a Sunday, I'm back at the house. I can remember standing in the entryway and my dad calls and he has that like, serious dad voice, and he was like, we just received a letter from a woman claiming to be your birth mother, and I'm not making it up, that letter was put in the mail the day before I graduated, and I'm not making it up that my dad's quote was, I don't know that I could have ever given it to you because I would have been so afraid of derailing your life. Back to your word of completion, if you had not gone back to school. And so to think about the fact that, was that for me, maybe, or was it for my parents to allow them to be able to continue to play their role as my parents in my life? And to my dad's incredible credit, he gave me the letter and he trusted me with it. And he said, to his great credit, he said, I trust God with it. To his great credit, and gave me the letter to go on my journey that was not the journey that he would have gone on. And, so now we're entering a new complexity. So I took the letter, I read it, Mike, and I put it in my nightstand, and I did nothing. Yeah. Nothing. And the thoughts that go through my head are about, does she need money?
Right.
29 years old. Why now?
Yeah. Did you sleep that night?
Say again?
Did you sleep that night?
I did because I just stuck it in the nightstand and ignored it.
Right.
Like if I had stayed in the awareness of it, zero shot. But what I did was it was so heavy and so weighty. WEIGHTY, such magnitude and gravity. I was just like, I can't. Like, I thought I just made it. I thought I just completed the thing. Like I'm done, right? And it really was just a step. Time passes. I just have to say it because it's still so bonkers to me that I had the thought. Legit, one of the thoughts I wrestled when I would think about it was, does she need a kidney? I'm not like this is the kind of stuff that will go through my head. Like, is that why she's reaching out? Like, I'm almost 30 years old, and now you're reaching out. Like, what do you want from me? Like, is it you're dying and you want something?
Little does she know you really had a good time in college and you don't have a healthy kidney.
No comment, right? My kidneys are doing great. I promise. That's what my doctor tells me. So did nothing. And then, again, in great patience, another letter shows up weeks later. I'll say a month. Let's go January-ish. And it is, again, just a follow-up, but it also has a picture in it. And it is a picture of my 5 younger brothers that I never knew existed.
Wow.
And it's actually, you're going to love this. It's actually a photo of them in front of Sandhurst, the military academy in England. So one of my little brothers is still in the Army, is active, and had done a correspondence training. He's a Ranger, and had done it at the military academy there. And so it was for his graduation. And so the first photo I ever saw of my brothers is the 5 of them standing in front of Sandhurst with the Union Jack flying up high. And and it just, of course, like tongue in cheek, I was like, there's 5 other dudes who could give her a kidney if she, like like tongue in cheek, and yeah, genuinely, that's the level of processing I was going through, and it just unlocked a journey, man. And I've just taken one step and another step to where we are integrated into my biological mom's side of the family, and like this past Thanksgiving of 2024, my family. Kirsten and I and our 5 kids were in Ohio spending it with my mom. Yeah. And that's been 12 plus years. Yeah. And it's normalized. Now, it's complex. My adoptive dad and my bio mom just met for the first time in December of 23. Yeah. One of our businesses was having its 10-year anniversary. And I was like, listen,
you're going to be in the
room together. Both of you all are going to be there. Because here's, this is tangent, but like, I'm going to die someday.
Right.
And these people that I love and have a relationship with are going to end up in a room together. Let's not do it that day.
Yeah.
Now, it might be today, but you know what? Like, let's not be that. Let's not have it be the day. Let's just, and so it's just led us to a life of, God has been very gracious to where we live in some complexity. We get to, okay, I'll stop because you got to ask follow-up questions because there's so much to splice. But like when I was a kid, the question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer used to be that I wanted to be a big blue daddy elephant with tusks.
Okay.
That was my kid answer, is that I wanted to be an elephant. The beautiful irony that God has taught me and that I really learned in the adoptive restoration story is that the way you work through it, and this works in all of life, by the way, is you point at and talk about the elephants.
Okay.
Over and over and over and over and over again. The irony was I was the elephant. Mm-hmm. And so I got to be the elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. And so often just make my presence be the thing that allowed us to talk about the elephant. And and it's complex and hard and messy. And I don't know all the answers, but I'm very thankful that I know my family, and that encompasses biological and adoptive.
And getting these letters and these photos and then realizing you have siblings, you're like, now all the questions they get bigger and bigger, right? They're like, well, now I'm more intrigued and I want to know, and
they just keep
flooding.
What's
the situation? And,
what's the story?
Exactly, right? And, probably seeing that photo of them in front of Sandhurst, you're like, well, it's my dad from the UK. Like, what's this all about? Like,
it's exactly correct.
Crazy.
And at the same time, we began to foster, as Kirsten and I were. And so our third child is actually from the Oklahoma DHS system and was adopted into our home. And so we just had this like multi-level complexity, but full of those kind of questions that are just over and over. And I think it's a part of what I love to weave it. It's one of the things I love about Oklahoma, because I'm an Oklahoman. Yeah. And even the other day, I was with somebody. Where was I? We bought a business late last year, 2024, October of 24. And we were meeting with one of the former owners and his wife. And she was just asking some of my story. And she's like, "So, were you born and bred in Oklahoma?" And it just was funny to me because I was like, well, I was actually bred in Connecticut. Yeah. I was born in Texas, but I am an Oklahoman. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of what Oklahoma is. Mm-hmm. You read Boomtown, you look at our story, you look at the complexity, the purple of our state, all these colliding pieces, the religion, but then the authenticity, but then the messiness, but then
it's such a melting pot.
It is. And out of nowhere. And that's kind of I think that's maybe why it's so easy for me to go, I'm an Oklahoman. I was bred in Connecticut, born in Texas, and I've been here ever since. And this is home. And I love Oklahoma. And when I met my birth mom, she'd be like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from the promised land." And she used to laugh. And so she has this pile of red dirt, because the first time she ever came here, she's like, "This dirt is so red." And I'm like, this is different than anywhere else. And that's one of the things I just love about this space, and even why we choose to still be here, because we choose as a family to plant here. I choose for our businesses to be here. We choose to invest in this community and town and area because we love this place. Because there's a complexity, but yet there's an authenticity to the identity of this place. So yeah.
Where's your love of soccer come from?
Well, I grew up playing it.
Okay.
I'm a United fan because when I was a kid on Fox Sports World, the only team I could ever see in the 90s was...
Because they were epic in
the 90s. They were epic in the 90s.
I am a Man United fan because of Ryan Giggs, because he was Welsh.
The Welsh wizard.
I've watched any games since I came out here, but yeah, 90s Man United was hard to beat.
It's the polar opposite of today United.
Yes.
So let's just, because I'm not...
That's what I've heard.
Other than the Thunder and my affinity for here, I love sports, but one of the things I love about sports is that I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
So I get to watch people like, oh, you follow the NFL. I'm like, heck yeah, I love the NFL. Well, who's your team? I don't have one.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it great, because then I can study leadership, EQ, the business side, the cap, like all these kind of pieces. I love that.
The organization side.
Yet I'm a fan of United, and so I ride that wave. And right now it's a trough. It's a trough. But yeah, that's how I got to be soccer.
Yeah. And so you kind of was probably good at it to go to Baylor to play soccer. What was the reason to go to Baylor?
I got into, my big sister went there. That was why I went to Baylor. Okay. Yeah. And it was close. I wanted to get away, but not too far.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah.
Did you get back very often?
You know what? It has been a very cool, it's been redeemed in a very fun way. I've got a buddy that I played, Dr. Matt Quaid. I played baseball with him at Hafer Park in Edmond when we were little kids. On the Cubs, I think. Cubs or Bears, can't remember the name of the team. One of those generic names. And he is a professor of leadership and ethics at the Baylor Business School.
Okay.
And he, about once every year or two, is very kind and gracious to invite me down to talk to his students or at events on leadership, ethics, entrepreneurship, those spaces. And so, yes, I get to go back maybe a couple times a year, and love doing it. Yes. I invest a whole lot more now than when I was a student there, ironically. Yes. Yeah.
When you have that, your friend or your dad's that gives you the job in medical sales, and kind of that, and you're like, I need something at this point, right? You're kind of in this transition phase and trying to still find yourself and lying yourself and others about finishing your school.
Yep.
What was it that just grabbed you from medical sales?
I love people, and at the end of the day, I love the service, that getting to serve someone else as they are serving someone else. So in medical sales, you're serving a surgeon or the surgical team in service of a patient. And so seeing patients genuinely get life back at our first business we founded, which was orthopedic distributorship here in Oklahoma City, called Habakkuk. We say the phrase, we exist to help restore life. And it's really cool. We've had patients that I know personally, even family members who've had, I can remember my aunt as an example, and I always have permission to share this story. She's given me that, where she came to Christmas and she couldn't get out of the car. She literally could not lift up her leg, abduct, and swing her hip out. And so I had to go lift her leg and help pull her out of the car. And years later, after bilateral hip replacements, she dances Zumba, she volunteers at the Wildlife Center. So life lost, life back. And so we had this just a little part of serving someone as they were serving someone else. And that for me, and again, that I would say very much just is within the vein of how I view leadership, how I view how we should interact with other human beings. Fail at it every single day, but that's the heart and posture we want to carry. Yeah.
Before we keep going, what position were you on the football field?
In the back. I was never... It's kind of interesting. I've become a big risk taker now in life. I have begun to, and I know we'll talk about that with some of the projects. I have more and more gotten out of the boat. That's a phrase I'll use, even in my own personal faith journey. But back then, and when I played sports, I was much more I could see cause and effect early, and then so I played defense, and I was in the back, and much more I could see 2-3 steps, but it was in a defensive posture. Yeah, reading the game and stopping it versus being willing to go fail 5 times to then have the one time pop through and go score. Not my strength. Back then it was not.
How long does it take you when you're in medical sales before you start opening up your own business and decide to make that leap?
Yeah, so 05 to the end of 13, so 8+ years. Yeah.
Okay. What was the decision? You just had enough at that point, or did you have something in you that's like, nah, I can keep doing this?
That I've always like that desire to lead. Yeah. That's like my sister. I have in my adopted family, I have one big sister. She's 6 years older than me. She doesn't like when I say big sister, but big sister. Yeah, I have a sister. She's 6 years older than me. She's gonna kill me. But it used to drive her crazy when we were kids because all the other kids in the neighborhood would just do what I said. And she was like, why? Like, why? And I'm like, I don't know.
What gives you the right?
That's it. She's like, and I'm like, I don't know. And so, and it's a journey because that is, oh my gosh, that's the very thing that got me in so much trouble in college. Is that, I have so many blind spots, so many challenges, but my gifting is the fact that I want to talk and I can be gregarious and I can be a connector. And in 5 minutes, because you and I met today, but yet we can very quickly get to Cardiff and I can tell you a story about United winning the FA Cup at Cardiff 2-0 over, gosh, was it over? No, it wasn't over Swansea. I can't remember who they beat. Millwall. See, and you and I are going to connect and you're going to tell me a story. And I've been doing it since I came out of the womb.
Which is what the sales guy saw in you and offered you a job.
That's correct.
That's why he didn't care you had a degree or not.
Correct. Yeah. Because you can't
teach that.
That's just, and that's, and I don't yes, you learn to refine it, you learn to hone, and what I would say is you learn to steward it. And what I would say is everyone, and now I'm just going back to my belief system, everyone has that for them. Because Genesis 1:27, we are made in the image of likeness of God. And so I believe everybody has that type of gifting for something. And it's this journey of reflection, looking back on those blind spots, the trauma, the wounds, the healing. Because so far we have shared a lot of the beauty. Right. We've had a lot of energy and fun, even as I tell this story. But the reality is there are ashes that are in balance with this. There is dysfunction and pain and hurt that still is present now. There are elephants that we still have to point at. And again, that's the journey, and we all have it. And so what are our giftings? What are our woundings? What are our healings? What are these pieces so that we can bring our full, we say courageous authenticity. How can we bring our full self with whatever our giftings are and build teams of people to make an impact, serve others?
So you said earlier you're a huge lover of history, and then you tie that into great leaders over history. Who were some of your favorite leaders over history, and then who were some of your real-time leaders over your life that you've kind of respected and looked up to, that you've learned so much from?
Well, it's funny. It's the first most obvious answer for me, and then I don't know if it's the fact that I'm a white kid from Edmond, Oklahoma, raised in a religious home, that I'm like, oh, can't say that. I got to be creative or come up with something else. But no, the genuine answer for me is Jesus is the leader I desire to emulate the most. Okay. Period. And especially in the sense of how people felt after interacting with him, which was, if we stop, it is a paradoxical thing because so often the interactions are opposite of what society and or my assumptions and or the lenses we come with when he would say things and do them, and I still don't get them. I'm supposed to be as shrewd as a snake and as innocent as a dove. I still don't know what to do with that half the time as an entrepreneur who wants to be redemptive, who wants to care about people, but I got to be shrewd as a snake. But that would be my answer. So when I think of leaders who could hold those levels of complexities are ones I deeply admire. Take, for example, Abraham Lincoln, and even some of the complexities. If you look at that story, the Doris Goodwin Kern's book, looking at his life, looking at how he brought in the people that he had defeated who were like antagonistic toward him and yet put them in his cabinet to give him, a diversity of perspectives and to be able to lead them to recognize if I was going to hold this almost fragmented scenario together and cling to what I knew was right, was going to lead to like that level of embracing attention, stepping into that, having a composure in the middle of that, I would say I deeply admire. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about it, and then a buddy and I were talking about it, about how so often, we were talking about fathers, and we were talking about fathering. And he was talking about one of his sons, two of our sons are the same age, and he was talking about his buddy who has influenced his son and is playing a part in it, and he was overwhelmed with gratitude for his friend. And we were just talking about how remarkable it is that at the right seasons and at the right moments and in the right spaces, if we carry the awareness, fathers, and I'm using that in quote because they're not literally our dad, but we are fathered by, and it may be someone like that we begin to learn from. Like Pat Lencioni is a thought leader on organizational health and culture building, who I would say fathered me early in my entrepreneurial journey about building businesses. I've never met Pat. He didn't know me from Neil Armstrong. Yet his willingness to share, create content like this, to codify, to step into his Genesis 1:27 image and likeness of God, calling and giftings, like that for me, I would say is another example. And I have had wonderful men and women who have played those in different seasons for me along the way. Here in Oklahoma, Trevor Williams is one. Trevor's a Edmond Memorial High School graduate, lives out in Shawnee, embracing his being a country man. He'll smile if he listens to this. I promise he'll love that.
City's growing. He's not going to be country for much longer.
He'll fight that. He'll be standing at the edge.
Keep going out.
He was such a wonderful father to me in ways when we were fostering, and I was so insecure and so scared going to the juvenile justice department, afraid to step into these complex moments to meet my foster son's biological parents who were really struggling in a hard season, or to deal with, again, messy, hard situations. And he just gave me courage and would meet me in those hard spots. And after I walked, he was so gracious to let me walk with him as his mom passed away. And then years later, as my mom began to go through, she had a gnarly degenerative disease with her, where her part of her brain atrophied. And it was just such a gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching few years. And I can vividly remember his counsel saying, "You better be there and be present in every minute of that mess." And I mean, this was years before my mom really went downhill. And I can remember vivid moments over the years, in moments where I got to be with my mom where she was physically failing. And I mean, you're cleaning poo, you're loving people at the end of life. And I can remember his words, "You be in the moment, Clay." And again, I hadn't talked to Trevor for years, but he had fathered me in moments. And then there's a gentleman named Kevin Penry now, who is very much like a father to me. And always so gracious and kind. And so that would be my off the cuff list for you. Yeah.
You still kind of read quite a bit of history outside of business leadership?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in a season, and it's probably been a couple of years. I mean, I still consume a decent amount of leadership content, very much practically for the job. But I've really enjoyed reading fiction a lot lately. Story just resonates deeply for me, and I can extract principles, see flaws in myself that I see in other characters, maybe things that resonate for me. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I even have on my Hamilton socks today.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the things I always love about that, to remind myself of like, which character do I want to be like? Which one resonates for me? Do I want to be like Washington, who walks away and gives myself up in that story when I don't have to and I can hang on to power? Or do I want to consume and pursue over and over and over again? And what is ambition? And how do I balance back to this tension, this polarity? Because neither's bad. Yeah. It's this, how do you keep them appropriately balancing together? But yes, like right now I'm reading Winter King, which is Cornwell. It's King Arthur. It's Arthur and his round table and an adaptation of that. And I'm loving that right now. Yeah, yes.
Reading's your wind down? when you're not coaching? Baseball, kids, basketball, running around.
I mean, yeah, we got 5 kids at home. So, Kirsten or I we're reading Harry Potter with the kiddos right now out loud to the younger 2, which are 8 and 9. So, I mean, that's a long external reading.
It's a big
but
one.
we're in Deathly Hallows right now. We're in the last one. So, yes, or that's typically my wind down, or checking out whatever sports is on that I'm not a fan of. Because if I'm in the game, because I won't put a Thunder game on, because then I won't go to bed. Because I'll be up and I'm invested. Yes.
Yeah. Checking stat sheets and
you know it. Yeah. That's exactly
long
right.
after the game's done.
No, I would never do that. What are you talking about?
It's okay. I do the same with golf. Doom scrolling Instagram till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
So, what was that first business then that you decided to launch after being?
Yeah, the orthopedic distributorship Habakkuk.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't know that I closed the loop. I went rambling
to what you were doing anyway.
Say that again.
Was that related?
Yes.
Very related to what you were already doing.
One for one trade. It was just me jumping off the cliff, starting the business, having some clients, and beginning to try to build culture and team. That's exactly right. And that was 2013. And that also, without as much clarity as I hope to articulate now, that was the beginning of my desire to integrate my work into my Christian faith, and not in a I'm going to be a businessman who makes a lot of money and there's a lot of profit and then I just go give the profit to the church. But in a sense of how can I take the DNA that I feel deep inside and integrate and incorporate it into the ethos, the culture, the systems, the people of our businesses. And again, back then I called the company HMS because I was too afraid. I can vividly remember Kirsten and I sitting in the kitchen as we were naming the company, and I was like, I think we're supposed to name it after like a book in the Bible. And we were both like, is anybody going to work with us? Because that's ridiculous. We're going to call it Habakkuk. Like, people don't even know that's in the Bible, let alone how to say it, let alone what it is. Like, and so to come to where now you and I are recording and I speak more freely, that's the journey. Yeah. That's the journey over 11 years.
Yes. Is Kirsten in the industry as well or not?
She, when we first started the business, she had been at Chesapeake in HR previously, back in the heyday of hiring. And so she had a lot of experience on the back end, systems and operations, and that is her gifting. And so she helped me in that. She does not actively participate.
Great partner for you to have.
Great counterbalance. That's exactly correct. Yes. Yeah.
How long did you have that company? Or, how long do you still have it?
Yeah.
Before you start the next one?
Yeah. So
and why do you start the next one?
Yeah, great question. We've asked that question ourselves very many times. I love that face.
We just love to do it, right? It's just like, why not start another business because we don't have our hands full already with
first
kids,
with 5 kids, with life, with stuff. Multiple families integrated together, right? Yeah. First, I'm an ENFP 7 if you ascribe to Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. So I'm a starter, I'm an energy, all of those, so I'm going to be a starter.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of the answer. Mm-hmm. Okay. We still have Habakkuk, we still own a majority of the company. Mm-hmm. So that would have been beginning of 2023, so 9 years into my small business ownership journey is probably when I started my entrepreneurial journey, to where I founded a second business. And what we did is we spun out the core operations of Habakkuk. So think about HR, legal, finance, executive leadership, and spun it up into a holding company, a holdco that's called Restoration Group. So that's the place where I spend a majority of my business time today. And so it owns Habakkuk now, which still has the privilege of serving thousands of patients here in the Oklahoma City Metro every single year. And what Restoration Group does is buy and build health and wellness businesses.
Okay.
And so what
then
my job is
to Unison.
It does lead into Unison. That's correct. And so a few years ago, 3 years ago, I began to have my mind expanded to the power of placemaking. we've always, even at Habakkuk, it's always been in our cultural DNA about creating moments, even spaces. And there's that Winston Churchill quote, I believe it's Winston Churchill. If I'm wrong, please somebody correct me. But about how we shape our spaces and then our spaces shape us. And so even thinking about the curation of space, the curation of a moment. And so we really use that in a sales process, in a service process with our clients. We care about that for our businesses that we own, for the communities we're a part of. And so we began to ask the question for our business, like what would it look like to really prioritize placemaking for this ecosystem that we're now beginning to build with a holdco. We've got one business, we're about to buy another one. We bought another one in 2024. And so we bought land on Broadway Extension, halfway between Edmond and Oklahoma City on the west side. I referenced Life Church earlier. I had a lot of relationships there, bought the land from Life Church, and we work in a lot of the facilities. There's that just burgeoning medical corridor that has emerged right there around Britton and Broadway Extension. I mean, you can't throw a rock and not hit a massive number of
both sides of the road.
Both sides. Mm-hmm. That's correct. And Sabelich was there years and years ago. My father was involved with one of the hospitals years and years ago. He was a healthcare entrepreneur in addition to practicing medicine. A lot of our clients are all over there. So Habakkuk as a business is already over there all the time. So we're like, the power of proximity. It's something that Adam Luck, who used to be in charge of city care here, works over at Brightwell now, but Adam talks a lot about the power of proximity when we're caring about our neighbor, back to the question of how to neighbor. And he was, of course, serving a lot of those who are experiencing homelessness here in Oklahoma City. And he just talked about the power of being next to people. And so for us, we began to ask the question, what would it be like to go plant? Bought that land, bought 7 acres. Don't need 7 acres. I mean, we are small businesses. I mean, we have 11 employees across a few businesses, contractors, these pieces, but we don't need some large, massive facility. But we have this land and began to ask that question. And it sits in a unique spot because even as we sit here today, right, and the Andretti place is popping up over at the half. Tiger Woods Pop Stroke is going up. Chicken and Pickles thriving. There's the mixed use in there. Flicks Brew, like all these things. Just on the other side of the interstate is a residential neighborhood, North Highlands, that is one of the lowest income zip codes and neighborhoods north of I-40 in the metro. High police call rate into there. Spent time earlier with Councilman James Cooper this year. That's in Ward 2, and it's just Councilman Cooper's ward, and really learned, and we talked a lot about the high transitory rate, meaning so many people there don't have deep roots. As the investment, even developments have gone in on the east side, if we think about like East Point Marketplace, all these kind of things, you have communities in that predominantly black community that have been there generation on generation. And so there was this great passion and energy about everything going on. There was an ownership. As we began to explore this and try to have conversations, what we began to realize is there's some incredible families and people we've got to know, but as a whole, very few people have been there more than a couple of years, and then they just turn over. And so you've got a neighborhood that we get to ask the question of, how do we neighbor? You got a church on the north, you got a school on the south that 67% of their kids come from that neighborhood. And then you have all this investment and development going on the other side. And I mean, I've shared enough of, and again, it's funny to sit and tell stories, and this is me just like reflecting right now, because I can say this now, but in the steps of the moment, it's just never this clear. But it makes sense to me now that like the complexity of what I described there, because I used to ask the question, because I looked at that land for years, because we were stirring this question for a long time before I approached him to buy it. And I kept asking, how come nobody's buying this? And I said it to Steve Lackmeyer when he was gracious to write about the project in the paper in the Oklahoman, and I said the phrase like it's forgotten in plain sight, because it's like 700,000 people drive by that every day, but nobody's looking over there because there's so much else going on. And I just kept saying, wow, I have complexity in my own personal journey. I can often see the beauty from the ashes. And so for us to go, that's where we're going to go plant.
Makes a lot of sense.
And we're doing a 10-pad site, health and wellness collective. One of those pad sites will be us. We're going to put an event center in there because we care about making moments. We've restored this pond that's been there for who knows how long, that the neighborhood, we've broken down proverbial walls to try to just invite the neighborhood to say, like, we're going to restore this. We're putting fish in it. We're putting in a fishing dock. Like, come use it. We've engaged the school to where we're partnering with them. And they've been such great neighbors. And so we just have got to ask that question over and over again of like, what does it mean to neighbor as small business owners, as health and wellness practitioners? And it's been really fun to begin to share in the city and look for other, because I don't want to own all those buildings. What I want, the same way I got to own my own building, rent it to myself, build up some wealth that way as a small business, health and wellness entrepreneur, I want other practitioners, health and wellness, counselors, psychologists, mental health, nutrition, doctors, urgent care, pediatric. We are saying, come join all this investment that's happening right across the street. I mean, the millions of dollars that are being spent, like that area, Thunder Ions right there, like it's a great spot. Yeah. But right here, we get to do that, get to be a part of that, and we get to ask, what does it mean to neighbor, maybe with people that don't look like us? Maybe with communities that typically we would not have an opportunity to be in proximity to. We begin to bring church, education, business, healthcare, residential, all convening. And that's where Unison came from with the great team at Nominee, Matt Stansberry and them, incredible folks. They're the ones who came up with the name. They first pitched it inside baseball. They pitched it and I was like, what? That is so, but it just was so on the nose of our heart of like, we're not about uniformity. We are about unity. And how can a space just be a part of that, of restoration, of taking something that was broken or maybe doesn't make sense, convening diverse groups together to do something larger than ourselves that will outlast all of us, which I hope is just a physical manifestation of everything I've been sharing in my own journey of like what I hope happens inside of all of us personally through the grace and gospel of Jesus. Yeah.
Where does the like root idea come from for this like campus, if you will, of wellness and businesses together on this pad site around this pond? Is there stuff like this around the country that you see and think I could do this in Oklahoma City, or is it something else?
I don't have I saw that and it clicked in my mind. We're sitting at Day Club as we record, just again, but the team at Pivot Project, who did this space here, were integral. John Dotson was a wonderful counselor and helped me in this project and began to dream and vision of how could we do something that's a little maybe 1 degree outside of the normal development thought. And so I don't have here's an example in Kansas City or somewhere else. It's been much more watching, but great folks like even like Blair down at Wheeler, or the Humphreys family doing that again. Just how do we Oklahoma, right? Those are probably the examples I would even give of like, take what seems to be disconnected parts, but yet when they come together, all of a sudden something unique and beautiful and powerful emerges, and you're like, oh, and it's like, I can see that. Much more that than I saw an example somewhere else.
What's your kind of, you talk about wellness and your personal wellness journey, as far as, you're athletic, you went to school, played soccer, it's one of the most athletic sports out there, and if anybody wants to be good at having great cardiovascular, get their kid to play soccer because they don't stop running.
Seriously,
just and then going through substance abuse in college and getting to where we are now, and even today, what are the kind of practices you do? Take me through your wellness journey over the years.
Again, I would say it was very holistic, because I'm just a firm believer we are integrated beings, that the physical affects the emotional, affects the mental, affects the spiritual. Like they are just so interconnected in our being. Definitely, I would say it was not until, I'm trying to think when I began to care because for so long I didn't have to try.
Right.
Which is, of course, now I look at my teenage boys and I'm like, oh, sons, please. Like, their metabolism is so high. They eat like garbage. Yes. I hope you listen to this, son. I'm talking to you.
It'll catch up.
It catches up, right?
Yeah.
And then you begin to have kids and but I would say here's the place I would go to first is the mental health aspect. And it was on the first time I can remember going to a counselor, a psychologist, was actually when I was after, this is curious, I don't know that I've thought about that. After I learned who my birth mom was, to like get the formal confirmation from the Texas Adoption Registry. This is back with like all the closed records. We both had to register with the state independently, birth mom and I. And they made me go to a counselor essentially just to certify that I was, not crazy or something. Yeah. I'm crazy in different ways, but not in that way.
Right.
And
of legal sound mind.
Of legal sound mind. That's good. That's good. And probably accurate. But that was the first time I ever went into like a counselor's office that I can remember. But I have had a counselor, hey Michelle, whom I love and who has been such a great resource to me that began to equip me. Because again, this is back to being fathered, which is, I think, is an appropriate term, though. Yeah. Obviously, my counselor is a female, as I said, Michelle. But yeah, like to be like, I can't handle this. The skills, my level of thought, my level of health is not up to the complexity of the challenge in my life right now. And some of that was I had not gone backwards to cultivate, dig out, heal. I'd just blocked things. And so there was some of that journey. Then there was other times where new inputs or moments would come. And even like I'm getting to a practical thing. You asked, what do I do now? So when our fifth child was born, so that had been almost 9 years ago, not long after, Kirsten and I, because our daughter was still in the carrier, because I can remember her in this session. So Kirsten and I went to our counselor, Michelle, with the baby, and there was nothing egregiously wrong in our marriage. But I could just sense, like, we aren't equipped for what's in front of us. And so if we don't get equipped, and that's the season of divorces, it's the season to where all these pieces, where families are torn apart, to where dads and husbands make poor choices, to where moms and wives make poor choices. And I can remember going to her and being like, just like, we are underwater, help us, so that, because we're not there, but I don't want to end up there.
Yeah.
And she gave me 5 things. And to this day, imperfectly, with grace for ourselves, we still do these 5 things very, very regularly. 1 is pray together. 2 was I turn off my phone when I go home from work. That was a huge complaint of Kirsten's back in the day, is that I would still be on my phone when I got home. So that's when I moved my phone to my closet. So when I get home, again imperfectly, but I'd say my phone stays in my closet a majority of the time. An agreed to amount of sexual intimacy. In other words, we just had to agree to an amount, and that was then what we committed to in that season of life. It was taking a date night every single week, like taking a date night. We have 5 kids, 8 and under. And businesses. It's like, that's not a simple thing to prioritize, but it was like, no, you put it on the calendar and you take a date night. And then the final thing, and this I can tell you, we do every single week, 2 AT. We had a date night last night, by the way.
Where'd you go?
We went to JK. Again, back to...
Great spot.
It's a great spot, but back to an international, cultural, seemingly out of place, but just fantastic and fits.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma City. Okay. We do weekly family planning, which sounds like,
what does
wait,
that
what?
look like?
We sit down every single Sunday, and it is messy, and it takes us a bit, and the kids get really annoyed because they want to come ask us 50 questions or they want us to come do stuff, but we sit down and we solve every logistical thing for the next week for our family in that single
It's
moment.
like a battle plan for the week.
It's a battle plan for the week, and we put it on the calendar, and we agree to it, who's taking which kid to what.
Yeah.
And so through the week, guess what we never have to do? And never is an overstatement, but guess what we rarely have to do? It's not like, now who's getting that? And are you picking him up from school? And then it's there, and we got to get the fencing, but wait, do we have chess club? And there's the school things, and when is our date night? Because it's done.
It's no resentment.
No, and that's it. And you solve it, and then you have the tension once, and you get. And there's a great pastor out of DC, Ben Stewart, whom I love. Oh, I love Ben. And Ben talks about you build your schedule on priority, not proximity. So now I'm countering on my proximity thing. Proximity about neighbor, good. Building your schedule, proximity, bad, because tyranny of the urgent always wins. And the world and our connectedness and businesses and life, it will always come get you. Build your schedule on priority. And so like our date gets on the calendar. And so then things don't go bad. And you know what? There was a season, it was like, I need to be home because I traveled a lot. And I was like, you know what? We're going to have 4 family dinners a week. And so it was like four nights. So kid activity? No, can't do that because we have to get 4 family dinners. Yeah. Get it on there. And we still do that to a T. And it has been, and in fact, if we ever miss it, which over the holidays, one week we did, but our week, like, I felt like I was like aimless. I was like, I don't know, who's doing what? And it was bonkers. Yeah. But 5 kids, and none of them were driving till this last year. That was a life-giving discipline. So when I talk about health, and so workouts are something that are on my schedule.
For morning workout, afternoon workout? Yeah,
I toggled that this past year. Okay. So I used to do the workout between work ending and going home, which was really good because it would let me get out all of my frustration, anger, and just like push it into the weights or the sprinting or the exercise. And then when I would go home, I'd have diffused that. Schedules moved it to the morning for me. Just again dictating on rhythms, and I have
kids activities, picking up kids from school,
and I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
it's been really good. And I've added in a new one this year. So some of Atia's stuff and all of his health, Peter Atia, his health span things, and he's come around a lot on the sauna, and so I have added that into my regimen of 20 minutes a day. 4 times a week. So when I exercise, that's my finish, and then straight into a cold shower to just blitz the body, and then get dressed and go to work. And so that's after taking a kid to school, that's my regimen right off the bat in the mornings. Yes.
What's your workout split right now? What are you trying to accomplish with your workouts?
So my doctor has me on specifically trying to build muscle mass.
The hypertrophy at the moment.
Correct. And the thought process being, and this is into some of longevity, but my goal is not living longer per se. It's living quality of life. It's health span at the end. And again, I watched my mom and I've watched others. And so now I'm in this sandwich generation where I have a great observation of our parents' generation, and I have kids both ways. And I'm learning to care both ways and be a student both ways, but to be able to like open jars, carry stuff, put stuff on a shelf. And so that's my motivation piece. Currently what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to build muscle mass. That's what I've got a guy named Scott Waugh. He's a subscription primary care doctor in town, and I've really enjoyed doing that. That's new in the last couple of years, to where we really track those things, and he keeps great records on it, and toggles and coaches me on it.
Are you into like the red light therapy, grounding, cold, plunges and all that kind of that stuff, or not?
My sister got me a grounding mat for Christmas, so it's upstairs here at my office spot. And yes, I'm the guy who's out barefoot walking. And again, it's one of these. I definitely don't have any harm in it. That I experience. I get lots of different perspectives on the value of it. I try to track it. I wear a Whoop. Okay. I'm a massive proponent. I've got a couple of years of data on myself, and I input, because it's the first one. It's the first data collector or fitness tracker that has made me change behaviors.
Okay.
Because there's this insights, because you fill out a journal every single day. So there's one thing to get like, okay, well, here's your heart rate variability, and here's your resting heart rate, and here's how you slept, and blah, blah, blah. but it begins to correlate cause and effect.
Okay.
Because it has me give a journal.
So you're like, hey, I shouldn't have had ice cream for dessert because I slept terrible, and it causes the ice cream at late at night, or a half glass of wine, or whatever it is.
The alcohol was the biggest one for me.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And not choosing recovery days when I've had poor recovery.
Yeah.
Because I just am like, well, I got to get my 4 workouts in, and I got to build my muscle mass, so I got to go grind. Yeah. I've become a little bit more aware of just trying to be like, all right, well, I'm going to it's okay, Clay.
That's the key, though, isn't it? It's saying to yourself, "Hey, my Whoop tells me to take a break." Versus
breathe.
Versus not having the Whoop on, and you're thinking, "Oh, I feel bad today. I'm going to take a break," because then mentally you feel bad. Because,
and then I'm just conceding, and I'm being soft, and I've lost my edge, and all these pieces, as opposed to being data aware and being like, "Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to move a couple things on my schedule. I'm going to take it lower today. I'm going to not strain as much, and then I'll try to grind that day." And again, it's attention that you manage on it, right? But alcohol was the biggest one. Okay. That I have, like, my drinking has reduced a ton because of the fact that I just watch it. I watch me not rest and recover as well. Yeah. It's bonkers.
That's because the science is epic, isn't it? Like, you see that and you're like, this makes so much sense.
You just can't argue with it.
No.
You can't. Like, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. I did do one other thing this past year. I signed up for Orange Theory.
Okay.
I only go one time. That's where my wife works out.
Okay.
And so, because getting dates was so challenging for us in evenings, I have started going to Orange Theory once a week to go with her. Yeah. It's like the people, it was funny because they do a great job on their intake and like, why are you here? And what do you want to achieve? I was like, I want an hour with my wife. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I want an hour with my wife.
Everybody else is here to get an hour away from their wife, right? Or their husband, right?
It's become my thing. But there was some, maybe an unexpected, what one of my friends, John Mark, would say, he calls it a buffalo, like an unexpected outcome from it. I have loved that we are doing something together where we are side by side. And so you're doing, whether it's on the treadmill side by side, it's not at each other, and it's not even like I'm doing this and we're in coordinate, but like we are literally side by side exercising. And we'll talk about stuff. Most of the time, like, we're not breaking things down, we're not working through things, we're just working out. Yeah. But we're side by side doing it. And I just get to admire her investing in her health. And so that's new in the last like 2 or 3 months. And I've been but the key is you build that structure and then you just get to toggle and optimize, and something doesn't work and then you just tweak it. But if you then have a track record, you've got the data, you can look backwards. And again, everything we're talking about is in like a personal, in this health piece, it all applies in our businesses. Right. It all applies in our faith journey. It all applies in disciplines of life, like all of the stuff.
Has ripple effects if something's not great at home, right? Or whatever it is, it goes somewhere, right? If something's not good at work, it comes at home and all the other things. And
because life is connected, life is integrated. We are integrated beings. Period. Yes.
Finishing up, do you kind of struggle to talk to people about that? Like, I agree with you in the way that we're all connected, and there was a lot higher frequencies, I guess, if you put it. If you read Joe Dispenza's book, whatever that book is called, it's fantastic. I can't remember the name of it, but he talks about, your frequency of your body and then getting in tune and all that stuff. Have you got a great group of friends around you that talk to you, like within your community, that you can talk to about this stuff? Or do you feel a little lost sometimes trying to find people to talk to about it? Because you clearly know it works and it's been working for you, right? And you're a people person, you want to see others get help or help others.
Yeah.
If only you guys did this with me. Yeah. Does that frustrate you sometimes?
I do get frustrated in life. That is at times. I don't think that one gets me.
No.
Like, no, but I would say if I could take a stab or even a guess at why, it likely is because
Becoming Supernatural. It's the Joe Dispenza book.
Becoming Supernatural?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Love it.
Really good read. It's practical as well, because it gives you things to do as you go through every chapter.
Yeah. I think the reason is that maybe it's just a place of acceptance that you just can't make. Oh, okay. So my coach said this to me the other day. I mean, I have a coach. I referenced him earlier, Kevin. And he talked about the shadow of a developer strength. I have a developer strength. The shadow of a developer strength is that we believe in everyone. The gap between where they are and what they could be is just opportunity. And that's also not true. Because the gap between me and dunking, right, isn't the opportunity to dunk.
Yeah, there's plenty of basketball courts out here.
That's exactly right. And so I think, but that's the shadow of a developer. The beauty of a developer strength is that you're going to see potential in other people that they may not see in themselves and give them opportunities. And that's what I want to be about, identifying, equipping, and empowering redemptive leaders. And as I buy and build health and wellness businesses, I'm trying to identify, equip, and empower redemptive leaders to give them a chance to run these businesses, support them. And so I think the thing for me to answer the question is weave it for me, Mike. I actually just lost myself. Ask me the question again. Where were we? Oh, frustrated.
Yeah, frustrated with just kind of people not seeing it the way you see it.
I think I've gotten, the answer is yes, many times I have been. I think I've gotten to a place of peace, of not trying to own results, back to what we talked about at the very, very start.
Yeah.
And I think what I have been able to do is that the more you just sow seeds and put it out, the more you're willing to, all right, talk about the elephants in your own life, show them your pit stains, and go, because everybody sweats. The common thread of all family ever since the garden is dysfunction. So yeah, guess what? You ask how my holidays was. It was great. I had a wonderful time with my family, and we had to work through a lot of stuff because it was family together. And and for the record, that's every family that's ever existed. If we're honest with ourselves. Now sometimes we can act like, no, everything's great. And it's like, well, all right, like cool. Is it? Or are we just not talking about the season in our life?
Right.
And so, like you asked the question, some of our physicians at Habakkuk who are clients, who I also, we work on other projects together as well, we have community in the Whoop. And so like we share our data with each other. To give you an example of like, we integrate it. And it actually was a curious journey piece for me because Kirsten used to struggle with community and she's found a wonderful one now. So thankful we were on a date with multiple of them last night. But like I have that at work because of how we approach integrating work into our Christian faith. We approach holistic life. Like my partners and the people I work with, yep, they've got all my data. I process these things with them. We talk about that at work while also trying to slay the dragons that are in front of the business and solve our problems and build processes and cast vision. And then we do those things. And so I almost have community group in my work. Yeah. And it used to be hard for Kirsten because she'd be like, well, I don't have that. So I'm glad you got that because I'm home with kids. Can we go find some community? Yeah. And so it's this unique, but that, to me, it's a question of what's the church. And that's my belief of the church is the people. The capital C church is people. It is not a building. It is the people. Yeah. And so we should be building the kingdom everywhere. And so thus the integrated life is everywhere at work. Yeah.
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 Two things. If everything's taken care of, kids are fine, wife's fine, you actually have time to yourself. What's the vice? Are you into cars? Are you like watches?
What's
like,
the
what
vice?
What is like you're just unapologetic, like I do this and I love doing it. I don't care anything about it. I don't care how much money it costs me. This is my like place.
Oh, I love to fly and travel.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like in the scenario you're talking about it, yeah. I mean, I'll fly first class international to somewhere I haven't been. That's what I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one of those, but like that was one of my Christmas gifts. I've got it in our mudroom at the house. It's one of those maps with the push pins of everywhere I've been in the world. And like that's my itch. That's where my Enneagram 7 comes out, is like I want to explore that, because like here I don't have a lot of that. I mean, people are like, well, what do you go play golf? And I think, I know you love golf. And I'm like, no, I don't play golf. No. Like when I get to a Sabbath or a rest on a weekend, like I want to decompress. I'll put on the NFL. I'm going to chill. I'm going to read. I'll be with my kids. I'm good. I don't need to go to, but I love traveling. Yeah, and if I don't have it, this is a fascinating learning. If I don't have it on the books, then I'm antsy. If it's anchored and on the calendar, I don't care if it's 12 months away. If it's on the calendar, I have a great freedom. And I've got a work trip to Switzerland, to a place that I've never been to Lugano, later in the spring. Wife and I have a Cabo trip, just the two of us booked a getaway, and I'm like, yes. And then my dad has been gracious to take my whole family and my sister's whole family all on a family vacation this summer to a new place, and I'm like, check. My year's set. Now I'm just gonna go because I don't have that itch for my
Have you
vice.
seen, is it Jesse Itzler's Big Ass Calendar? Have you seen that? Look up that. It's exactly what you just said.
Is it like Big Ass Fan? Like the Big Ass
It's
Calendar?
literally
I
just
love
a
it.
giant calendar. It's got the entire year laid out, one sheet of paper, and talks about like planning. Every 8 weeks you do a trip or you do this. Just plan the whole year, because then, like you just said, you have peace knowing that I'm going away. Me and the wife going to Cabo. I'm doing so you can focus on the day to day, right? So Big Ass Calendar for anyone listening. This time of year,
great hack.
It's great. It's like $50 for the calendar, and it comes, obviously $50 a year, right? Because every year is different. Great calendar. So
And it's the same principle as the weekly family planning.
Exactly the same
It's just at a macro scale, and that's the beauty, is you go macro, micro, and living in this.
And it's really cool because he does these like 3 things. He talks about adding. I'll find like there's like a podcast that he does on the whole map, and because he talks about doing 1 year defining thing every year, and then he talks about going on it goes on a mini trip every 8 weeks and like a big trip. It breaks it down to if he lives to the next 40 years, he's gone on hundreds of mini trips. Which,
that's good.
Talking to your travel and kind of tying into that.
I love it.
It's really fascinating, and one thing that I think, because we all say time goes so fast, people think yesterday was 2019, right? Which it feels like it was. It was.
Wait, it wasn't?
Right. But the fact that we have things scheduled and planning, and yes, we actually go do stuff, and then I married that with a book that I just got called Die with Zero.
Yeah.
Which is just.
It's on my nightstand.
So good,
I'm not messing
right?
with you. It's on my
good.
nightstand.
And so that's kind of what I'm I'm 34 years old. I'm trying to say I've got 40 years left. I really want to do something with those 40 years and have those experiences and do the thing. And so, that's kind of where I'm at this stage in my life, or this season, as we've been talking about.
That's good.
Last question, because my real kind of career life is in the residential real estate space, the luxury residential real estate space. I always get to talk to people about their dream homes and what they would build and what they would do. So money, no object, non-negotiable, whatever it is, what does your dream house look like? Take your time.
It's a curious question for me, because I quote my wife when I say this. She might throw something at me, but she knows I'm right. That I could live in a cardboard box. Now, that's of course an extreme statement, but the ethos of what she's saying is there are things I'm very high maintenance about and I care a lot about, and there are things that I'm just like, all right, but I'll give you real answers. So hold on, let me stay with it. I could see sunsets at my dream house. Buddy David Bertrand, was a professor at SMU, he quoted somebody saying that you can measure a man's life by how many sunsets he sat and watched.
Deep.
I know. David is deep. So sunsets, that's how I wind down. There we go. You asked me that question earlier and I wasn't able to get it. Yeah, to watch a sunset, so the dream house, a sunset on the ocean. Yeah, so I would be by water, because there's something about the constant lapping of the noise that is calming, because my mind is always running. And so it quiets it. And if I could watch sunsets, there's just something eternal about that I love, that it just centers me. So that would be my answer.
All right.
It doesn't have to be big. I could sit in a little shack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sunsets and water.
Sunsets on the water.
Brilliant. Well, mate, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate your enthusiasm, your stories, your intentionality. It's something that really comes across in just kind of being with you. You're very intentional, and I love the practical lessons that people are going to take away from this. Even just like I said, the 5 things that you do with your wife, like they're all extremely valuable. And I know that people listening, even if they're not married or not in a different relationship, they can translate that into their business or personal life in a way. So super, really, thankful for you sharing those. Where can people find the information about Unison and your businesses? Where can we send them to?
Yeah, unisonokc.com is the landing website, and on there you can click through onto Instagram or LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 places that we post a majority of the updates, keep the content alive, and share more stories along the way. So,
and people can reach out to you in any way through the website?
Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah, there's a form that they can send us a contact, and it goes straight to me. That's right.
Awesome. Well, for people listening, I'll put those links in the description, and we'll catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, 3rd generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.